All right, welcome back to another one of our film reviews. The Chicago Bears have acquired offensive lineman Dan Feeney from the Miami Dolphins to be a key depth piece as a part of their offensive line. And today we're going to break down what Feeney can bring to the table for the Chicago Bears. Got a nice cut up of Feeney's last performances in the preseason. And if you like this content, please give us a like, give us a comment. If you want another player you want us to evaluate, please comment in the comment section below or just give us some feedback. We really appreciate it either way. But without further ado, let's get into the film. All right, so we're going to open up with Feeney. Feeney right here is currently playing center. Can't see his number right there, but there he is at the on-the-ball center here. We're going to evaluate a number of things that Feeney does well. Anytime you want to back up the piece on the offensive lineman, you're looking for what I like to call the two factors of versatility. The first factor is, can you play multiple positions? The second factor is, can you do multiple different things? So can you be a center and a guard? And we'll show that from Feeney very shortly. Can you do multiple different kind of schemes? Can you run block just as well as you pass block? If you're a backup, we don't expect you to be a superstar, but you need to do everything at least capably enough for the offense to execute, and Feeney certainly does. So we're going to get started right here with a design cutback the Miami Dolphins run here. You're seeing the tight end come in motion here. He's going to come over here, and he's going to then come back and kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage, and we're going to get a lot of zone action this way for the Miami Dolphins offensive line. They're trying to create movement from the defense that direction. So with a running back, we'll take a step this way and counter out here. And what you need from Feeney in the center here is you need movement horizontally. Vertically, if you can get it, but you definitely need displacement of the defensive lineman if he comes in your gap and work up to the linebacker. Let's see how Feeney does. All right, again, there he is at center. Watch what he does at the snap. Get movement, get up, get on the linebacker. Look how much he drives him out of the way. That is fantastic stuff. Gets a push, gets up. Look at this cutback lane that he helps create. Look how much this is compressed just by his action alone. It opens up a lot of space that this linebacker and this defensive tackle has to fill. It gives the running back a lot of room to cut it up or at least read it how he wants to read it. Running back's a little indecisive there, so he doesn't become as good a play as it should have. But from Feeney's perspective, this is well done. Great athleticism, great physical, great effort, all the above. Nice rep.
One thing I really noticed, Nick, is the speed at which he gets to the first block, gets off it, and gets to the second level to pick up. I believe it's a safety coming down. Could be a linebacker, but 40, I think it's a safety. It's just really, really quick, and it really, really the opposite of that running back. He's very decisive. He knows exactly what he wants to do. And I think that's a great quality and a veteran backup piece, wouldn't you say? Just a guy, veteran player. He knows what's going on, and he is extremely decisive, knows exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, that's exactly why you acquire a guy like Feeney at this stage instead of maybe going with a rookie undrafted free agent or a late round guy. Because like you said, he's decisive, he's experienced, he knows what he needs to do. Shock, get movement, get up, and get on the safety, like you said. Having a veteran guy right there gives good peace of mind as a depth piece, and that's exactly why the Bears picked him up, and he's going to be a nice addition to this offensive line, as you'll see as we keep working through this film. All right, so we talked about the two factors of versatility earlier. Here we have Feeney showing off his positional versatility. He's no longer at center. That's him right here at left guard. And what we're going to have here is we're going to have sort of an RPO action. It's either an RPO or a play action. I'm not exactly sure how Mike McDaniel structured this. But what we're going to get up front is we're going to get a zone blocking concept to the right. You're going to get everybody kind of working this way in the offensive line. And all this kind of action here. And I don't know if this is a play action from Skylar Thompson or if it's just a designed or if it's just an RPO that he reads. But either way, up front, it doesn't matter. It's the same. Feeney here, his job is to get movement here and work up to the linebacker, drive him off the ball, work up, and see if he can get a piece of that linebacker if it's a run. Let's see how he does. Dislocation up to linebacker. Again, it's an RPO or it's a play action. I think it's kind of an RPO. I think he's just reading what the defense is doing. Skylar Thompson is and hits the receiver on a slant. Again, up front, though, you don't know that. So his job, get movement, be aggressive, be assertive, work up to the linebacker. And look at this job. Movement on the linebacker. Obviously, it's a pass, so it kind of separates what happens after that. But this is nicely done. This is outstanding. This is a guy, when I watched this film playing for the Miami Dolphins in the second and third group, he separated himself. This is a guy who did not look like he belonged with the second or third group. He looked like a guy who could be competing for the starting rep, for some starting reps, and that's what you get here. just blows the guy down and still works up to the linebacker. And again, if the Bears want to run some RPO games, this is what you want out of an offensive lineman. Force that linebacker to come up. Put this linebacker right here in a no-win situation. Because if he stays flat, they'll run the zone. 67, Feeney here will work up to him. If he tries to get down in the hole here to try and play the run, you just throw it behind him. And it all comes back to this. How well can you block it up front? And Feeney does a phenomenal job here. Great movement and gets up to the linebacker. Great rep.
And Nick, I'd say the most important part here is we analyze the price the Bears got this guy for. Like you said, this guy stands out in these games. He does not look like he should be going with the 2s and 3s. He looks like he could potentially be rolling with the 1s, from a day-to-day perspective. So for getting this guy for as little as the Bears did, I think this just shows quality backup. He could be a starter if he needs to. He's not really going to disrupt the flow of the offensive line. I think they got a steal here in this guy, don't you think?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't know why this guy was available for a 6th-round pick, but he was, and you take advantage of it. Credit to Ryan Poles for recognizing it. I think obviously he's a backup offensive lineman, so in terms of the price you're going to have to pay for him shouldn't be that high. But again, he plays extremely well. You expect a guy of his caliber to dominate the 2nd and 3rd stringers, and he does. I think this is going to be one of the greater moves the Bears have made kind of under the radar as we work through training camp, acquiring this guy. I think he's going to have a really nice season for the Bears if his number is called. All right, we're switching it up yet again. This is no longer the game against the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, this is the preseason matchup against the Houston Texans, and Feeney is not at guard anymore. He is back at center. You see him there facing us. And what we're going to have here is we're going to have an example of something that's not incredibly pretty, but just enough. We talked about a backup needing to do just enough to get the job done. So you're going to see sort of a zone scheme here where the play side guard, the right guard here, is going to give some help on this defensive tackle before he works up to pick up a linebacker. And Feeney's going to try and reach him and take him over, either cut him off or stay on him, keep him preoccupied in this gap so that way they can run a sort of outside zone scheme out here. He just needs to make sure that defensive tackle, I believe that's number 91, doesn't come up and potentially interrupt this play and kind of get in the track here. Let's see how Feeney does in the situation. This is a really challenging block. So again, you see how flat he gets right out the gate. That's how you know it's a really hard block. That's a tough situation. But see how he works? Again, not pretty, but it gets the job done. Cuts him off a little bit, kind of falls a little bit, but he does everything he needs to do to give this guy a chance. Again, he's not an all-pro. You wouldn't get him for a 6th-round pick if he was an all-pro. But I tell you what, that gives you a chance. And with the running back talent that the Chicago Bears have and the athletes they have on offense, that's all they're going to need is just a chance. If his number is called and he has to play center, if he has to reach, this is what I call a two-eye technique. Two-eye technique, inside shoulder of the guard right there. This is a long way to go for the center. It's a tough block. He gets the job done just enough to get them outside and get them a chance. Nice job by Feeney up front here, just to fight through it and find a way to make it work.
Yeah, Nick, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, all Feeney's expected to do here is just to hold that guy up for just a minute so that the running back can break through the corner and get going upfield. And I think he does what he's supposed to do, whether he falls or not or whatever happens after that really doesn't affect the play. He did what he needed to do, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, ideally in a perfect world, he completely cuts him off and completely seals him. Like you see what the right tackle does here, this defensive end. Like you see how he completely reaches him here. That's a phenomenal job. That's a really high level block. You ideally would get that same kind of thing out of Feeney in a perfect world, but you don't need that, to be totally honest, because that's all you need, right? Because he's not even close to making the play, doesn't interrupt the running back's path at all. And if the running back didn't even take it wide, let's say if the running back was trying to run up here in this gap in this area, pretend these two guys aren't here, 91's not getting in the mix there either. Again, not pretty, doesn't cut him off completely, isn't able to get all the way over, but gets just enough, gives this guy a chance. And like I said, with the Bears athletes they have on offense, that's all they need. It's just a chance. All right, Feeney once again has changed positions. Here you have him at right guard in this situation here. We're in a pass situation. Obviously, I believe it's a 3rd down in the red zone kind of deal here. And we're going to have Feeney here. He's going to pick up a stunt. And this is an example of not his best effort in terms of execution, but doing just enough. He recognizes and reacts what the defense is doing up front, and he's able to get just enough to let his team be successful. Let's take a look how it works out here. Again, you're going to see 94. He's going to lead the stunt inside. You're going to see linebacker come around. Doesn't see it quite in time, but he does recognize it at the last second and gets just a piece of him. Barely a piece of him. See how he just puts his hand on his hip and drives him a little bit upfield? Right there. You tell me Justin Fields can't get out of that? Right? Skylar Thompson isn't Justin Fields, obviously. You're telling me Justin Fields, if he's in that situation, that's enough space for Justin Fields to get out of that and make a big play happen? You better believe it. Again, not a perfect rep by any means. It's actually a bad rep in terms of how you would grade that in terms of his film. But he gives his guy, even on his bad rep, a chance. Gives him just enough of a chance to maybe create a play. That's what you need from a backup. Worst case scenario, does not his best work. Still not a disaster play. Will live to fight another down, or maybe Justin Fields can do something magical. I'm betting on Justin Fields doing something magical in that situation. Again, recognizing and reacting. He sees it at the last second. Good effort to get over there and try. Extends, lays out. Look at this dive. Lays out, gets just enough, pushes him upfield. Let their star athlete, let your star quarterback, number one, Justin Fields back there, let him be a superstar. This effort right here from Feeney will let him be a superstar, and that's why he'll be a nice addition to this Bears offense.
And my question for you, Nick, is we've seen this guy. He's played multiple different positions already. Wouldn't that be a factor in his game? Obviously, if he gets in for the Bears, he's probably going to be playing one position all game. I think he'd be a little bit more set in, a little bit more comfortable if he didn't have to bounce around between center and guard throughout the course of one game. Do you think that is affecting him at all here?
No question. And in both preseason games that I showed, both against the Texans and against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he actually, obviously, as you guys have seen, has switched positions mid-game. That is an absolute nightmare. It's one thing to prepare to play a game, understanding how your footwork, your hand placement, your timing, the play calls, all of that from one perspective, but to switch completely middle of the game, that is really, really hard to do, especially going from center to one of the guards. It's a little bit easier if you go from, say, right tackle to right guard, because it's still your footwork is still relatively the same, your hand placement is still relatively the same. But to go from center to guard mid-game, that is incredibly difficult. And he does an admirable job in both circumstances here. I think that's why the Bears were willing to give up a 6th-round pick for him, to be honest. There's not a lot of people that can do what Feeney has done in these 2 preseason games. And I tell you what, I don't know if he'll have to do it in a regular season game for the Bears, but if he does, the Bears will have some confidence that he can actually execute at some level. And that's got to be big, because we see it sometimes in big games, right? Team gets a couple injuries up front and then everything falls apart. With a guy like Feeney, that could really potentially help that from not happening for the Chicago Bears. All right, we're going to end on a really nice rep here from Feeney. So the Miami Dolphins here are running a wide zone. So it's a zone scheme, but you're trying to get, instead of being an inside zone, the running back's taking a wider path here. He's trying to attack not necessarily off tackle, but outside the tackle. He can cut it up if need be, but he's trying to get really wide here. Here you've got Feeney. His job is to stay wide and cut off this backside linebacker here. You got the play side linebacker here, or what I would call the play side. You have the backside linebacker right here. That's a tough situation. Remember, this is a linebacker, should be athletically, should be faster than an offensive lineman, and he's already got a head start in the direction of the play, right? He's lined up on the hash. Feeney's obviously a little bit to the left of the hash here. He's got a head start on the play. This is a tough job for any offensive lineman to do, to get here and cut him off. Feeney does a nice job here. Let's see how he gets it done. Look at this track. Boom. Again, doesn't demolish him. He's not an all-pro. You're trading for a backup here. Gets up on him, gives him a shock. No chance to make the play. Not even remotely close. That is all you need when you're running this outside zone concept. So again, this guy, he's getting width. When I say this guy, excuse me, I mean the running back, he's getting width. He's trying to get a hole as quickly as he can on the outside. Your job here on the backside is to just shock this linebacker, make him work flat or over the top. The only chance this play doesn't have a chance of working in terms of this backside linebacker making the play is if he's able to get downhill and cut it off at the pass right here. Feeney prevents that with a great angle and great use of the hands. And you know what I like about it too? He doesn't hold. Shocks him, stays with him a little bit, but doesn't grab cloth, because that's an easy call for the ref. And that's all you need. Really nice job by the running back, reading it for a nice productive play, but a great job by Feeney here, taking a great track. So much of this is understanding the angle you have to take, right? Sometimes some guys, they try and go too vertical too fast. They get beat over the top. You want a great example of that? Look at 77 here. It's a little too vertical, gets beat over the top, gets help. He should widen out now, widen out. He doesn't, he waits too long, doesn't get on that linebacker. Feeney, the savvy vet, look at what he does. Winds out immediately. That's how it's done. That's a nice job from the offensive guard right there. Great effort.